Start with your text. The text I have here is just a simple outline on top of a chalkboard texture. Use the snapping feature or drawing grid to make sure that your text is truly centered, and then still in the center, mark a point below your text. This is where your drop shadow is going to appear to be coming from. There's no hard and fast rule on how far exactly to put this below the letters because it will depend on the style of the text and how long the word is, so just go with your gut. The important thing is to keep it on its own separate layer so that you'll have it to reference for all the next steps. On a new layer, draw lines leading from your center point to each of the corners of your first letter. I use a contrasting color here so that they're easily distinguishable for what we're going to be doing in our next steps. Just don't forget the edges that aren't on the bottom of the letter here, they'll still have shadows falling beneath. Personally, finding a way to draw these took a lot of practice, and at this point, I go ahead and erase any lines that I don't need, such as lines extending past the letter or dissecting through parts of it. This just helps me from getting a bit overwhelmed. Next, choose a larger brush and start to fill in each of these shapes you've created. Again, it's important to keep each of these sections on their own separate layers. Keep the shadows more opaque closer to the bottom of the letter where it will be darker, and then start to fade it out towards your center point below. I just go in all messy and then I erase the edges afterwards with a cleaner brush. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the rest of the process so you can see it all come together. Having all these separate layers is going to make it so much easier to clearly edit it afterwards. Something that's very helpful for me is turning off previous layers while I work on a new one so that I can really see where I'm working and not get confused between the two. I'll just keep turning these on and off as I need to. I'll also occasionally lower the opacity of the section I'm working on just to keep myself right and see where those overlaps are happening. This really isn't a big deal because anything that overlaps can be erased or gaps can be filled between the layers. Once you're done with all the sections on one letter, add these layers to their own group. This makes it really simple to turn your letters on and off all at the same time while you work on the next one. Here we go on the second letter. Again, keep turning the other layers on and off so that you can check that you're keeping everything cohesive here. Don't forget the sections that didn't even need those initial guidelines, like right here in the center of the R. This may seem like a process, and you could absolutely try to keep all the shadows for one letter on one layer. I just know that every time I tried that, especially with a textured brush, it got difficult to try and add some clean detail or to make edits. I have found that keeping everything on separate layers at first gives way more control. The next important step here is to duplicate each of the groups you've created here for each of your letters, and then simply turn off the duplicates. These are going to be your backup. So if you combine a group of your layers and you do some work on it and you're just not feeling it, then you can start over with one of your backup layers. Here I'm moving my backup layers to the bottom out of my way and I'm just turning off their visibility. Then I go ahead and flatten my visible groups of the letters so I can edit them all at once. Now I can easily erase any unnecessary sections or overlaps and just clean everything up a bit. At this point, you can decide which way you'd like to leave the bottom of your shadows. Some of my favourites are using an airbrush to just softly erase a little off the bottom, or using a super clean straight line. You could even have it coming from behind another word or design. Either way, you're done.